So I wanted to sort of chat with some of you guys about the posts that you've done because some of you have had really interesting commentaries and some of the stuff that you've written. And Qian, you in particular, your post about this understanding that you came to
Yeah.
about being American. I don't know if everyone had a chance to read it. Could you maybe like tell us a little bit about that post and sort of what you were talking about there?
Oh, yeah. So it's basically like international students come to the United States, and then we have kind of the culture shock, right? So it's sometimes for a group of people, they find themselves very difficult to fit in, while the other group of people they seems to like so get used to the American culture and sometimes lost their own culture and their own self identification. So my post is just talk about that.
Do you think that is like in particular for Chinese students? Do you think they face that more than people from other countries, or is it just a general thing that everyone goes through?
I do think that like all the international students are facing the same challenging. Not only Chinese students, but also students from Korea, from Japan, and from other countries. Cause like we saw a lot of things from the movies, from the books, made by Hollywood. So when we actually come to America, it might be different from what we have read in the books or what we watched in the movie. So sometimes we just have to like make some change to make ourselves to like to get along with others, just like change ourselves a little bit, but at the same time maintain our own culture and our own like self identification.
Simba, is that something that you've found? You're of everyone, I think the newest to the U.S. of the people who are on the call. Is that something that you've been going through?
Absolutely. Well, in my experience, I mean, it's been really difficult trying to balance your own background and at the same time you want to assimilate into a new culture. So I think it's a very delicate balance there. Like you have to kind of figure out what aspects of your own culture are useful to you and how are you going to incorporate them into this new culture and how are you going to use those aspects of your own culture to help you understand the new culture that you're in. It's kind of a difficult compromise there, but so I'm slowly getting to understand it.
Is there anything in particular that you had to give up from what you're used to from back home, or anything in particular that you have been really excited to pick up while you're here?
Um, I think one thing that I've picked up from Americans is the bluntness and the directness of in the way that they speak. Because in Zimbabwe, I think maybe in Africa generally, we tend to go around to beat around the bush a lot when we're trying to address something. We don't really directly say it. Whereas Americans are very blunt and they'll just, give you their opinion uncensored, unfiltered. And I think I kind of like that in a way because, um, uh, it's very, very direct and you get the message instantly. And it's something that I've picked up unconsciously. And another Zimbabwean student here actually said to me, "Wow, you've become very direct since you came here." Like, and she noticed that, and I found that very interesting.
That's really funny because yesterday we had Promise and
Hmm.
Alex on the phone, and Promise is from Nigeria and Alex is from Uganda. So we were
Hmm.
talking about this a little bit with them too. And Alex was saying that one of the things that he found that was really different and uncomfortable was that like Americans speak much louder, and there's not like like they're willing to yell, and yelling is not weird or angry. It's just sort of like the method of communication, and I guess that goes along a little bit with the
Right.
bluntness stuff,
Mm, that
right?
is true. I think that Americans do have a different style of communication, and it's kind of difficult to read those nuances. Sometimes they speak in a certain way, and you don't really know how to interpret it. So I'm finding that quite interesting.
Mm.
I think they are just trying to make their points and try to persuade others. Yeah, that is understandable because like a lot of people they not only Americans but also Chinese, Japanese, when they're trying to make their points and then they are becoming like aggressive and make their voice louder.
Well, Olena, this is the second time that you've been an international student. Is it super different in the U.S. compared to where were you before? Sweden, right?
Yeah. I was in Sweden like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to Sweden, well, you know, it's really hard for me to say now because I got used to my life here so much that I really stopped noticing any differences. I feel I kind of belong to this place, and it is like a second home for me. But what was really different, probably, that I know the language, but when I came to Sweden, everybody could speak English, but you couldn't read, you couldn't find any signs in English. Everything was completely in Swedish. English language probably was confined only to the airport and train stations. But when you go in the cities, in the villages, everything is in Swedish. Here in the United States, I know English and I feel much more comfortable with the language.
Well, I don't know if you guys have met Vladimir yet. He's sort of a little bit different than the rest of the people writing for the blog because he's in the process of applying to study in the U.S. for next year. But I'm curious from the rest of you who are already here, when you think back to either for the freshmen to this time last year or, 3 years ago when you were applying to the U.S., like, what do you wish that you knew at the time to pass on to somebody?
Well, for me, it was working with the American Council of Education because I could get a lot of valuable information from them. So they run a lot of educational sessions where they explain all the intricacies of applying process. And also they have a so-called opportunity program, which helps to cover a lot of financial expenses like application fees, some travel expenses, the visa fees, and so it can be really very helpful.
I would second the advice to visit the Education USA Center because they have trained professionals there, most of whom are Americans, and they're really able to look at your profile and your interests and find the kind of schools that would go with your profile. So I think that's a great idea.
So thank you for the advice, but actually like my major source of information for this application was actually from the Education USA in the American Embassy here in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, yeah. And so yeah, I got like a pretty good picture of what you're talking about.
And also one thing that to focus on is I think your application essay, because that's the only opportunity that you get to present yourself in the way in which you want to be viewed. So the other sort of things in the application, like the SATs and the grades, it's someone else telling a story about you. But in the application essay, you're really able to present yourself and package yourself in the exact way that you want to be viewed.
I know it's sort of lucky that he doesn't have to do TOEFL. What was that hard for you guys to get the score that you needed? I mean, all of your English is obviously wonderful, but how did you prepare for the TOEFL exam to get the score you needed to come?
I think the new TOEFL is like absolutely like much more difficult than the old TOEFL because the speaking part and also it's generally much difficult. I think if time could go back, I will like spend more time preparing for my TOEFL and then get a greater better score. especially you have to talk to a computer. That is like weird.
Oh yeah, I really hate talking to computers. It's actually so stupid. Oh yeah.
How do they even do that? I've never taken it, obviously. What do they like record you having a conversation into
Yeah,
the
they-
computer?
It's an internet based, so they just save your audio file and then people evaluate it.
Yeah,
Assess according to certain criteria.
and the prepared time is so short. It's just like who is your best who is your favorite professor, and then it just give you like 15 to 20 seconds to prepare, and then you have to talk like for 1 minute. So yeah, I think that's challenging.
I was like, Zimbabwean students normally are not required to take TOEFL.
Because English is a official language there. Is that why?
Yes, that's the reason. So I'm quite lucky I didn't have to go through that process.
But you still had to take SAT, right?
Yes, I still had to take the SATs.
How was that?
I think SATs were different because it was a very long test, and I was definitely used to a lot of testing because our educational system is really pretty much driven by exams. But the SAT was very different in what it required from what I was used to. But I think overall it was more exhausting than anything else. It was really tiring.
Yeah, it is. I remember when I took my SAT, because I don't know if you guys still do this. They had like those long bubble sheets where you had to fill in, like, if the answer was A, you had to like color in the bubble for A. And I got like 3/4 of the way through the test and realized that I was a question off. So I was filling in the answer for question, 270 in the line for question 271. And it's just like, oh my God, you can't go back at that point. And I had been there for however long it is, like 4 hours. The test, had been there for most of it already, and I had to just walk out and come back and do it again the next time. So
it must have been frustrating, actually.
Yeah.
to come back and take the test again.
It was, but I still got into college. So,
I finished all of my SATs yesterday because yesterday I took my subjects: chemistry, biology, and math. One.
Oh wow! How'd it go?
Yeah, it was excellent. Like math, not so good, but I don't really care about math that much. I just took it because I can take 3. So yeah. But I took biology and chemistry because obviously I'm very interested in it. I'm actually going to hoping to go into major biochemistry. So honestly, I was expecting it to be much harder than it actually was. But I was definitely more stressed out when I did my SAT reasoning. It was so exhausting, and the people who were how to say that the teachers who were examining us were making sure we don't cheat or something like that. They didn't actually follow the rules for breaks. So we had like during the whole test. First of all, it was late for like an hour, and then we did the whole test, the whole SAT with 2 breaks of 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it was terrible. I was like dying after 4 hours, and we're like just 2 breaks of 5 minutes, and just students were leaving the room like panting, and they like, oh my God, sunshine. That was really crazy. So it was quite exhausting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was a fun experience.
I'm sure. So I'm curious, Vladimir, what made you decide to apply to Yale early? Like, how did you pick? Was it because they have a good biochem program, or like what was it about that school?
I have when I was like looking through colleges. First of all, I went obviously on College Board and did that college matchmaking, and so I got this huge list of all colleges that have first of all scholarships for international students, and second of all, I have a really weird combination of I want to have a really weird combination of majors because on like my freshman year, I'm going to take requirements for both biochemistry and film studies. Yeah, so it was the first criterion, just to pick colleges which have those two majors, and then I don't know. I went through the amount of money they give for scholarships for international students and stuff like that. And I think first thing that popped for as something I like in Yale was the residential college system. Yeah, I think it's awesome. Just like those, they make those small communities, and I believe it will make my culture shock much smaller than it normally would. And I don't know, I love their descriptions and their curriculum for those two majors, and some student organizations because I actually dance here. I
Do you?
Hip hop.
I do too, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually a few weeks ago. I went on the World Championship.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was awesome.
That is
It was
so cool.
5-day World Championship in hip hop, boogie, electric boogie, and breakdance. It was in Austria. Yeah. And
Is there video somewhere? Can we see?
yeah, no, I don't think so. There are like pictures, but there's no videos. So yeah, the thing about Yale I like is they have this amazing student organization called Rhythmic Blue, and I don't know, some just like I have like this huge list of things about Yale. So I can like read it for you if you.
No, that's okay.
It seems like you prepared well, actually. You found out everything about the college.
Olena, how did you decide where to apply to? Was it, I mean, like Vladimir had academics and extracurriculars. What was it like? How did you decide where to apply?
Actually, well, my major is linguistics, applied linguistics, with a focus on teaching English as a foreign or second language. So I just went to the website called the TESOL, which stands for Teaching English as a Second Language. So, and they have a list of master and PhD programs in applied linguistics on TESOL, actually. And then I just went to the school's website and I checked all the curricula, all the program requirements, and I've been corresponding with the schools and trying to find out which ones offered scholarships for international students, and which ones were like international students friendly, I would say. So, and I ended up in Ohio, and I really don't regret. I love my school.
Very cool. What about the rest? Oh, I guess Simba, you're the only one left. How did you end up at Oberlin?
One of my top priorities in choosing college, I think, was financial aid, and I had to sort of that was sort of the factor in the background as I was looking at schools. And well, like I told you, I went to the Education USA Center, and in my discussions with the educational advisor, we talked about both my academic goals and my extracurricular goals. And one of the biggest things I was involved in high school was music. And Oberlin is very famous for its conservative music.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that drew me to Oberlin. And I was really interested in science and also humanities. And Oberlin has a really great science program and a humanities program. So those two things combined, and also they have great financial aid and they have a great international student community. I think it was mostly just a combination of all those factors.
Have you had a chance to get involved with the music stuff there?
Absolutely. I'm actually in one of the all-male a cappella groups on campus called the Obertones,
Oh,
and
cool.
which is really, really cool. And we're having a concert that's coming up next week on Parents Weekend here at Oberlin, and I'm really looking forward to that. I've had so much fun performing in that group. I think next semester I'll try and take piano lessons because I used to play piano, but I kind of stopped for a while, so I'm going to try pick that up again.
With that, thank you guys for taking the time to do this. I definitely want to try to do it again.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I think it's actually a great idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, and you know, it's it's nice to get us all together because we'll never really meet in person, most of us. So it's at least we get this. So
Yeah.
so that's nice. All right, well, cool. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everyone. If it's still the afternoon, I don't know what time it is for all of you.
For me, it's night. Yeah.
Right now then, sweet dreams. Have sweet dreams.
Good night then.
All right, I will talk to you guys soon.